Alright, so a lot of my students have this problem with autopiloting, so I decided to go ahead and make this video. Now there's two main ways how you can instantly stop autopiloting right this second. Now if you're watching this video, you're most likely struggle with autopiloting, whether it's during the buy menu when you guys need to buy guns, you don't know what to do, you just like start spacing out, or maybe you're just a scroller, you like scrolling on Instagram, blah blah blah. Whatever the case may be, that's all going to stop right now because you're watching this video. So there's two main ways to stop autopiloting, and I'll go in depth in both of them. But to start off, I want to cover a quick concept, which is autopiloting on defense versus offense. Now, typically, when you're autopiloting on offense, it's not so much you kind of spacing out and then not knowing what to do. It's sort of you just following the team or just running it down, right? So typically that's autopiloting on offense, but usually it's harder to end up autopiloting on offense because of the fact that your teammates typically have a plan, right? It's like, okay, we're going to go A, we're going to go B, we're going to default, and then you kind of just end up following the plan. So what happens is usually on defense, which is where players will typically just go and just play in the same exact spot that they usually play in, or they'll just be spaced out like for 30 seconds in spawn looking at their buy menu and trying to figure out what to buy, and then by the time they're done buying, they're just like, okay, what do I do now, right? So there's one good way to kind of just instantly snap out of autopilot, whether it's you going to the same position and not thinking about what you're doing, or whether it's you just spacing out in spawn. The first tip is called the 10-second rule. The 10-second rule is that you do whatever you want, right? You can buy your guns, you can do whatever you want. But once that timer up top hits 10 seconds, you need to ask yourself two questions. Number one, where do I need to go? Like your minimap, where do I need to go? Where's the gaps? That's the first question you ask yourself, is where's the gap? Where do I need to go? Once you are in the gap, once you've situated yourself, the second question you need to ask yourself is, how can I win in this position? How can I get a kill and get away? How can I stay alive while having impact? It might sound like I gave you guys three questions, but in reality, it's all the same question, which is, how can I get a kill and stay alive? That's all it is, right? So once that timer hits 10 seconds, you want to ask yourself, okay, you want to have a plan, all right? So for example, if I'm autopiloting on defense and I come here every single round, right? And I just position here, I want to have a plan. And once that timer hits 10 seconds, I'm going to be asking myself, okay, what's my plan, right? Am I going to wait until I hear a footstep and I'm going to peek into them, tap ahead, and then dismiss away? Is that my plan? Or am I just going to hold this off angle and I'm going to try to hold here so that when they have to jump up here, I can catch them midair and then I can dismiss away, right? Or do I want to creep up here and try to go for an early pick, right? So once you're around 10 seconds, you need to ask yourself these questions so that you instantly are no longer autopiloting and you actually have a plan in mind. And this will help you win so many more rounds, by the way. So for all you guys who like to autopilot, keep that 10-second rule in mind, and do make sure to ask yourself both of those questions when you're on defense, so you can snap out of it and start winning rounds. Now, the second way to stop autopiloting is to actually understand what agent you're on, right? If you are on, let's say, Reyna or Jet, right? Your goal should be to take some early space, right? So if you are on an agent like Reyna, Jet, or just any duelist in general, your goal on defense is to take early space and just try to get information, right? Or the second option is to just play off angles like I showed you earlier, where you're playing an off angle, you get a pick, and you get away. That's essentially 90% of how you play a duelist on defense, right? Number one, take early space, give info and take info, and number two, play off angles, right? That's literally that's like 101 of how to play defense with a duelist, right? So if your character is a duelist, that's something that you should be thinking about pre-round, right? Instead of autopiloting or spacing out, once that timer hits 10 seconds or even before, you should already have sort of an idea in mind on how you want to play this round, whether it's you're going to take space, you're going to get some early information, or are you going to play an off angle? These are two very simple questions you can ask yourself pre-round so that you stop autopiloting. So again, alongside the first tip This is something you can do. And then if you're playing, I don't know, a sentinel, then you want to ask yourself, okay, where does my trip go this round, right? Maybe I put my trip here last round and it was broken. So maybe I'm going to place it a little bit deeper this round, right? Asking yourself questions about your utility now, if you're playing like a sentinel, is going to help you stop autopiloting, because you want to ask yourself that question once the next round loads up, and then focus on placing your trips right, placing your chamber TP right, etc., etc., essentially adapting to how the enemies are playing against your utility. So now you're going to adapt your utility to be better, basically, right? And then if you're playing smokes, right, for example, or a controller agent, you can ask yourself, okay, where do I need to be this round, right? Where do I think they're going to go this round so that I can lean more towards that site? Typically, if you're a controller, you're going to be playing mid, typically like back mid, but in general, sometimes there's going to be, you know, situations where you're playing on site, playing off site, but at the end of the day, you want to ask yourself, what site do I want to lean more towards because of where they went last round? Maybe they went B last round and they failed, and then they went B again and they failed. So now you have an idea that they're most likely going to go A, so you can lean towards A, right? And you can be a little bit more close to A so that you can help out a little bit faster and that you can smoke a little bit faster, right? So again, there are agent specific questions that you can essentially ask yourself, so that way you can stop autopiloting. And I guess one final bonus tip that I have for you guys is understanding how to retake, because autopiloting on retakes is a thing too, believe it or not, especially in ranked, right? If you're in ranked, typically teams don't have retake comms, right? They lack the comms to actually go in and retake the site. So typically they just run it down, or they just wait for the smoke and they just go in together, right? Now, as the higher in elo you get, this does become a little bit better because players actually know how to throw utility, and even without comms, they kind of know how to play off of each other. However, if you're in lower elo, retaking is a nightmare, right? Typically. So the way that you want to understand retaking is, okay, as long as there is one person on site that needs help, in the sense that there is one person on site, right? They are still alive and you have the ability to help them. This is very important, right? What do I mean by that? What I mean is, if there is one person on site, right? Let's say he's standing here and they're coming B, right? And let's say you are all the way back here. What are the chances of you helping this player? Very low, right? Very, very low. Why is that? The reason why is because he's probably going to die right here. And by the time you come, there's no point, right? But let's say that your teammate is back here, or maybe he's back here, right? And he hears them coming B, right? And they're pushing onto site, but he's still alive and you are close enough to help him. Does this mean that you just play back here and wait for the rest of your team to rotate so that you can play retake? Absolutely not. This is not Premier. There's no set strategies. What you want to do is you want to get into the site and you want to help this teammate out, because you and this teammate are going to have to go and get your frags now, right? That is the best choice that you can make until the rest of your team rotates. So don't autopilot on retakes either. Always be aware, what angles are my teammates peeking? If this guy is holding this angle, what am I going to hold? I'm going to hold this angle. I'm not going to hold the same exact angle, right? I'm going to come here. I'm going to help him out. I'm probably going to try to position, maybe get one pick here. Or I'm going to come back here, right? Now we can hold each other's cross, sort of, if he's like a little bit more back here, right? And you can, like, you know, peek, clear things, etc., etc. So there's so many different options, but whenever, even if there's just one person on site, if you have the ability and the chance to help that player, then make sure that you take your time and do so. So anyways, guys, that is my how to stop autopiloting and how to stop spacing out guide. I hope this helps you guys out, especially for those of you who just feel like you're running it down in ranked and not getting any benefit and not learning from it. These are some questions you can ask yourself, and there's also a timer reference that I mentioned, which is roughly around 10 seconds. So once you see that, you can kind of, you know, switch into that locked in mode where you're now focused and asking yourself those two questions initially. And again, watch this video as many times as you need to refresh your memory. And for those of you guys who are new, if you want to join my private community so that you can rank up over 500 RR within no time, actually even more than 500 RR. I've had people that I've coached only one time that literally ranked up like 600 RR within a couple of weeks. So there's a lot of W's going on in that server, and there's a lot of wins going on in my private community. So if you want to join, feel free to check out my links below. And that should be it for this video.